modern cinema, the crime genre began to take shape in early 20th century but peaked during the 1940s and 50s when film noir emerged. While films were starting to develop and become more popular, multiple historical events, societal concerns, cultural attitudes, and audience preferences led to the peak of the crime genre. The emergence of the crime genre was due to multiple factors. These include the reflection on law enforcement, justice, individual rights, inequality, and public safety, addressing corruption issues and highlighting challenges in complex society that includes social class differences, ethnic groups, and culture. Crime film are also a platform to show dangers and consequences of people's action and are used for social commentary and critique purposes. But the most important factor is the influence of crime and war. Firstly, there's the prohibition and organized crime. In the early 20th century, the Prohibition era in the United States led to a rise of organized crime, bootlegging, and speakeasies. This period of illegal alcohol trade and criminal activities provided a fertile ground for the exploration of crime-related stories in literature, film, and other media. An example of this is The Public Enemy in 1931, directed by William A. Wellman. It is about a young man who rises through the ranks of organized crime during the Prohibition era, exploring themes of violence, loyalty, and criminality. Secondly, which is the most important, is the film noir and post-World War II anxiety era. Film noir was a film movement that was a new type of crime thriller that emerged more dark and cynical, reflecting the post-World War II anxieties and disillusionment. It was popular because during times of conflict, people had a heightened interest in film watching, especially stories related to war and patriotism. The film noir genre gained popularity in post-World War II era, reflecting the disillusionment and anxiety prevalent in society during the time, where it was very relatable to the audience. The film that changed the crime genre completely was The Maltese Falcon in 1941, directed by John Huston. This film is based on the novel by Dashiell Hammett and is considered one of the early examples of film noir. It follows Detective Sam Spade as he becomes entangled in the convoluted plot involving a priceless statue. The Maltese Falcon is renowned for the detective protagonist, morally ambiguous characters, and atmospheric visuals, which became defining features of film noir and crime genre. The film The Great Train Robbery, directed by Edwin S. Porter, was considered to be the first narrative film that includes elements of crime in cinema, although crime already has its roots in literature. It was a short silent film about a gang of outlaws who plan and execute a train robbery where they force out and rob the passengers. The film went through a series of scenes depicting the planning, execution, and aftermath of the heist, where the gang of outlaws eventually engaged in a shootout with law enforcement officers, where several gang members were killed or captured. The film captivates audiences with a thrilling narrative, innovative techniques. The film's success as both an entertaining and technically innovative work helped establish cinema as a popular form of entertainment and contributed to the development of film distribution and exhibition practices. This also resulted in more crime genre films produced in the future. When filmmaking was developing more and more, crime genre films were also becoming more and more popular and peaked during the film noir and New Hollywood era. Film noir films alongside Maltese Falcon, other films such as Double Indemnity in 1944 and The Big Sleep in 1946 became iconic examples of film noir and contributed to the genre's popularity. During this time, crime films featured detectives, femme fatales, and morally ambiguous characters became prevalent. In the late 1960s and throughout the 1970s, the crime genre experienced a resurgence and reinvention as a part of the broader New Hollywood movement. Filmmakers such as Martin Scorsese pushed the boundaries of the crime genre, creating gritty and character-driven crime films. Some films during this era include The Godfather in 1972, Taxi Driver in 1976, and Scarface in 1983. As for the themes of crime genre, this genre serves a variety of purposes in filmmaking as it entertains, challenges, and engages audiences while exploring complex themes, morality, and societal issues. It immerses viewers in thrilling narratives centered around criminal activities, investigations, and law enforcement. Reflecting the social, political, and cultural conditions of its time, the genre offers a platform for storytelling that delves into the dynamics between crime and justice, presenting moral complexities, ethical dilemmas, and themes of redemption, transformation, loyalty, and betrayal. It also examines the abuse of power, the repercussion of violence, the impact of identity, and the fascination with elaborate heists. Through these themes, the crime genre provides a lens to explore the complexities of human behavior, the consequences of crime actions, and the interplay between law enforcement and criminal elements, entertaining and commenting on the human condition and the world we live in. The crime genre encompasses a wide range of storytelling conventions and visual elements that contribute to its overall atmosphere and narrative. These are the iconography, setting, mise-en-scène, color, and lighting that are composed in crime genre. Crime films often take place in a gritty urban environment such as city streets, alleyways, nightclubs, or seedy neighborhoods, which reflect the dark side of society. There are usually iconic locations composed in a crime film such as police stations, criminal hideouts, casinos, or warehouses, which are considered dark atmospheres and are frequently featured in crime films to establish a sense of familiarity and genre expectations with tight-knit community or organized crimes. Props usually include guns, knives, safes, money bags, and other criminal props, which are often used to emphasize the criminal activities and the dangers involved. For the vehicles in crime films, they are sometimes composed of cars, motorcycles, or getaway vehicles, which play a significant role in crime films, showcasing high-speed chases and planned escapes. For color and contrast, crime films usually have high contrast, particularly the interplay between light and shadows, which help create a sense of tension, mystery, and visual intensity. There are dark and desaturated tones and hues usually dominated by the color palette of deep blues, grays, and blacks to evoke a dark and dangerous atmosphere. For lighting, there's a predominantly low-key lighting, employing shadows and dramatic lighting to enhance suspense and emphasize the moral ambiguity of characters. In certain crime subgenres like neo-noir, neon lights are employed to create a stylized and atmospheric visual aesthetic, adding a sense of urban decay. Crime films are characterized by stories centered around criminal activities, investigations, and the pursuit of justice. These are some key characters and protagonists that make up a crime film. Firstly, there is the crime protagonist. Crime films are often featured with a protagonist who is involved in or associated with criminal activities. This character may be a professional thief, a con artist, or a gangster. The audience is often presented with a morally ambiguous protagonist, someone with flaws or a questionable past, but who may still possess redeeming qualities. They are the main characters and drive the narrative, seeking justice, redemption, or personal gain. The crime protagonist is often paired with a sidekick or partner and is loyal companion to the protagonist, often providing support, comic relief, or specialized skills. They may be a fellow law enforcement officer, a reformed criminal, or a trusted ally who assists in the investigation of criminal activities. In contrast to the crime protagonist, crime films may also feature a law enforcement officer or detective officer as the protagonist. This character is typically a law enforcement officer or a private investigator who serves as a protagonist against organized crime. They are driven by a strong moral compass and a determination to solve the crime, often facing personal challenges and conflicts along the way. There's also the mastermind or criminal genius that plays a large role by heavily involving the protagonist in criminal activities or investigations. This character is the master planner behind the criminal activities in the film. They are highly intelligent, strategic, and often charismatic. They pose a keen understanding of a criminal underworld and are skilled at orchestrating complex heists or criminal operations. This role is important in the story and the social cultural context of the crime film. This is similar to the gangster or mobster. They are typically involved in organized crime and hold significant power and influence within the criminal underworld. They are often portrayed as ruthless, charismatic, and are willing to do whatever it takes to maintain their control. There's the informant, who is a character that provides valuable information to the protagonist or law enforcement. They often have a conflicted past or motivations, and their cooperation is often driven by self-interest or desire for protection. Similarly, the snitch is a character who provides information to the law enforcement or other criminal elements in exchange for favors, protection, or sometimes reduced sentences. They often find themselves caught between loyalty and self-preservation. Sometimes there is also the femme fatale, a seductive and mysterious woman who often manipulates and deceives the male protagonists or other characters. She is alluring yet dangerous, using her charm to further her agenda or to aid criminal activities. Finally, the corrupt cop, who is a law enforcement officer, is involved in criminal activities or is influenced by corruption. They serve as a source of internal conflict and add complexity to the narrative by blurring the line between good and evil. Key directors who have made significant contributions to the crime genre include Alfred Hitchcock, Martin Scorsese, and Quentin Tarantino. Alfred Hitchcock, known for The Master of Suspense, made several influential crime films. His work often blended elements of suspense, mystery, and psychological tension. Notable crime films directed by Hitchcock include Psycho in 1960, Rear Window in 1954, and Vertigo in 1958. Martin Scorsese has established himself as a masterful director. His films often explore themes of violence, redemption, and the criminal underworld. Some of his notable crime films include Goodfellas in 1990 and Taxi Driver in 1976. Quentin Tarantino is known for his distinctive style, nonlinear narratives, and dynamic dialogue. His crime films frequently feature nonlinear storytelling, unflinching violence, and pop culture references. Tarantino's notable crime films include Pulp Fiction in 1994, Reservoir Dogs in 1992, and Kill Bill in 2003 and 2004. Crime films can be categorized into multiple subgenres, but these are the main ones. There is the gangster subgenre, which focuses on organized crime and the rise and fall of criminal figures. There is the heist subgenre, which evolve around elaborate robbers and thieves, showcasing the planning, execution, and aftermath of high-stake criminal operations. There is a crime thriller subgenre combining elements of crime and suspense, featuring protagonists entangled in dangerous criminal conspiracies or investigations. And finally, there's a police procedurals focus on the procedural aspect of criminal investigations, following law enforcement officers as they work to solve crimes.